Welcome to DU Digimon.
Hello and welcome to DU Digimon, and welcome to our final episode of Jank Tank 6, the winning deck profile. So, spoilers if you've not watched the rest of the tournament. Too late. Anyways, so this is the winning deck. This is my Skull hybrid list from Jank Tank 6. So this was a bit of a controversial list once I brought it and I won with it, specifically after I won with it, because when everyone checked the list before, they were like, nah, it'd be fine, what even is this? And then it did its thing, and it wrecked house. It did really well, better than I thought it would, to be honest. I had been testing the list for a long time on DCGO and all this sort of stuff. A lot of people have seen me playing around with Skull hybrid stuff. I think a few people have commented on the channel before, on the community page, and possibly on videos, saying that they've caught me kind of testing Skull hybrid stuff before, which is quite funny. But it did really well. Obviously, we're going to be getting rid of the meta engine for this, and are going to be bringing in that meta engine rule now to Jank Tank, so we're no longer allowed to use those engines from meta decks. We had that rule originally way back in Jank Tank 1 through to Jank Tank 4, but then took the rule away in Jank Tank 4 because people were finding that the deck building wasn't very lenient. But unfortunately, as this deck has shown, we can't have nice things, so we've had to bring that rule back. Which we hope you guys are happy with as well. Also, obviously, head down to the description, to the comments below, to vote on the poll for the next Jank Tank format, which will be the Special Booster 2.0 format, which, of course, has now been delayed in the UK. Go figure. But let's go through the list and everything. We're not going to do any gameplay for this, but what we are going to do is look at the list as it was in Jank Tank, as well as also the lists, because I've actually come up with 3 different lists that I'm considering for BT18 and beyond. But starting with the eggs, we've got 4 Koromon from BC14. It's probably the best red egg currently in the game, because it just, anything removes a security stack on your turn, you just draw a card. So that's, and that includes if that Digimon were to die in a security battle, it's absolutely fine there. The only times where it's not is if an option were to hit in security. That's an issue, but otherwise you're fine to draw a card. So Koromon is really broken, frankly, and could potentially be an egg that's going to be kind of ban list restricted as well. Maybe that's a thing as well. Maybe we need to look at the eggs that we're playing, but I would probably say that's probably not, Koromon's not at that point yet, where we could say that, we're going to have to we can't use that egg, but who knows, let me know what you guys think. Going into the rookies, we only have 8 rookies in this, because our main thing is obviously we want to be, digivolving with the hybrids and going for game that way. But we've got Muchomon and we've got Ukomon. This is kind of all part of the red hybrid engine, which got me in trouble with the guys. But the Muchomon, when it attacks, when a red Digimon attacks, including itself, you draw 1, so essentially it's a draw 2. It attacks in, got the Koromon underneath, you're going to get a draw for attacking in, and then also get a draw for doing a security check. So really good card. And then Ukomon speaks for itself, obviously searching your Digimon or Tamers whenever something moves out of the breeding area, including itself, and then it hatches something in the breeding area, so really nice. Then going into the hybrids, we've got the Aegisdramon and we've got the Burning Greymon. The when Digivolving effect of the Aegisdramon does not come up, and there is a direct replacement for it in BT18, which is a lot better. But the main thing with Aegisdramon and Burning Greymon, obviously Burning Greymon's kind of normal effects can come up, so the raid and also the when Digivolving digivolve into something with hybrid in its traits for a reduced cost, so you can digivolve into the Aegisdramon for free. But the main thing with these two is their inheritables are completely generic. Both of them are just, this Digimon gains 2000 DP, and that's insane for SkullMeramon, a Digimon that can gain security attack +1. So having that extra DP underneath you, is really good. Going into SkullMeramon himself, the star of the show, he's super simple. You gain 2 off of he only costs 2, sorry, to digivolve into, so he's extraordinarily cheap as level 5s go. And then he's also got the effect of, essentially, you pay 2 memory and then you get security attack +1. So ultimately, if you're doing his full effect in one turn, he does cost 4, but the fact is you're getting him so big that most of the time that's not an issue. That's cheaper than it would be to go into a level 6 beyond him anyway. So, you know, you're basically going into your boss monster for only 4 memory, which is actually really good. And the amount of times I've kind of choked a player on 1 by doing the I'm going to cost 2 and go up into SkullMeramon. The other thing as well is if you've got an offense training or a red memory boost, the memory or the cost reduction for his Digivolution covers his cost entirely, so he'll just cost nothing to go into. I remember seeing him in BT15 and thinking, yeah, that's a bit of a filler card. But then after playing it in Masochist and now in Jank Tank, I rate SkullMeramon. He's one of my favourite uncommons in the entire game. I think he's really, really good. Next, going into our level 6s, we're only playing 3 copies of Valkyrymon. You'll notice our Digimon ratios are very strange because we're playing more consistency and control tools to help us with catching things up, as well as also kind of more things to cost reduce later on. But Valkyrymon obviously is probably one of the best aces in the game. Strong contender for being banned from Jank Tank, frankly, as a card, because of how good it is. You know, it does the minus 5k on the board, which, you know, essentially you can do on the opponent's turn by the ace mechanic. Also has the alternative effect of when a security is removed, you're going to either delete something with 8k or less, which is very easy to do because you've minus 5 the board, and if it doesn't delete anything, you gain security attack +1. So if they've got nothing on the board and you attack in with your Valkyrymon, it then immediately does a second check because it's gained security attack +1. It's just a really good card. And speaking of really good cards and really good ace cards, our one level 7 is Gallantmon Crimson Mode, who is, oh my god, he's so good. You know, you on play when digivolving, delete 15k's worth of their stuff. That's usually going to be the entire board. And then when attacking, for every 10 trash in either player's trash, so it counts both yours and the opponent's, you're going to trash the top card of their security stack. So depending on who you're up against, especially if you're up against purple, Gallantmon Crimson Mode is exceptionally good at closing things out, and he actually helped me kind of claw back a draw in Jank Tank, so really good. Then going into the tamers, of course, we've got the Takuyas, we've got the BT12 Takuya and the BT17. The BT12 is a memory setter, will set you to 3, whilst BT17 will give you a memory at the start of the main phase. But both of them, much like the Aegisdramon and the Burning Greymon, have completely generic inheritables, because obviously it's a hybrid tamer. It actually has a inheritable effect because the whole idea is you're meant to be digivolving on top of them. So the memory setting one, the BT12 one, gives you your turn when you would do a security check, you gain 2 memory, which is really nice. And then the other one gives you piercing. Both of them are only if you reach a certain DP threshold, but also both of them give 2000 DP to whatever it's underneath. So if you've got these two, one of these two, and the Aegisdramon and the Burning Greymon, you've got a plus 6k SkullMeramon. So that takes you up to 13k. 11 if you've only got one of the hybrids and one of the tamers, which is still meeting that threshold that you need, because it's 10k or more DP for both of those inheritable effects to kick in. So it's exceptionally good tamers with very generic support. You know, obviously that's what you get when you're nicking stuff from Red Hybrid and using it in a Jank deck. You know, again, please let me know if you think this deck was okay to be used in Jank Tank, because obviously it's banned now, but it will help us with shaping things going forward to make sure we're not breaking any sort of unspoken rules or taking advantage of any things that you know, that are no longer in place, which frankly I probably did, let's be honest. Let's then go into the options. We've got 2 copies of Gravity Crush. It obviously helps you with gaining memory, especially for closing out the game. Costs 0. It will lose 2 memory at the end of your turn, so you've always got to bear that in mind. But you can also play around that. So, like, for example, I've done it before, played it, made my plays, you know, all that sort of stuff, passed on 1, then they've gone to 3, they've got a memory setter anyway, so no bother. Then we've got 1 copy of Delicate Plan. This is just in here to help us against option heavy decks. So the one thing with SkullMeramon is obviously he's quite you know, vulnerable to being deleted or DP reduced or de-digivolved, you know, because he's got no protection at all. And because of how aggressive this deck is, decks that have a lot of options can really punish you. So Delicate Plan just helps you mitigating that potential kind of control. Then we've got Crimson Blaze. Speaking of control, our own control tool. You know, this Crimson Blaze is probably one of the best removal tools in the game. Deletes everything on the board was 6k or less, and then stops them from playing effects, playing any Digimon by effects until the end of their next turn, which, as you will have seen in Jank Tank, I forgot to mention a couple of times. It's not looking good for me, really, in terms of this. I apparently, allegedly, we'll use allegedly, we're on YouTube, allegedly is a popular word on YouTube all the time. Allegedly, I bent the rules, kind of did, and I also forgot to well, not necessarily forgot, but, forgot to keep reminding of the effects of Crimson Blaze, I suppose. But also the great thing with Crimson Blaze as well, the more Digimon your opponent has, the cheaper it is to play, because it reduces cost for each Digimon they have. So if they've gone really wide, it could even be a free option to use. Then we've got Fireball at 2 copies. So this one, you delete a Digimon with 3k or less, and if you don't delete anything, you draw 2. So it helps you again with that consistency potentially, as well as also being an additional removal tool. Then we've also got Trident Gaia. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, and if a Digimon with 13k or more was deleted, you trash the top of their security, which did come up in Jank Tank and helped help clinch the game a little bit, because I essentially did an extra check whilst getting rid of an incredibly powerful Digimon. Then for consistency, we've got the 3 red memory boosts and the 3 offense training. Obviously, red memory boost reveals top 4, adds a red Digimon. You can delay, gain 2 memory, whereas offense training reveals only 2, but adds any red card to your hand, whilst also making your Digivolutions cost less, reduced by 2 essentially. Then we've also got 3 copies of Lightning Joust. This is in here to give us further boosts and further security checks as well, because if you've got less security than your opponent, you're going to be able to do extra checks. So you can get SkullMeramon absolutely massive with this. It only costs 1 as well, so you gain 2k, gain 2k, gain 2k, if you've got all 3 of them, of course, and you can use them, whilst getting those extra security checks. That really helps you just doing those extra checks whilst you're being aggressive in the early game. I mean, that's the main, if you ever try this deck out, the main thing is you want to be as aggressive as possible from the off. You want to be really quick. You just want to go bam, 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 and you don't want, you don't worry about your Digimon dying. You don't worry about your stacks being lost, because you can very quickly recover yourself by the fact you're using hybrids as an engine. So it is really good fun. I actually am really tempted to see if it translates to like a proper tournament. Really test if the meta engine is really doing as much work as it did in this. And again, like I said, I've kept saying it. Please feel free to tell me off if you do think this deck was naughty in Jank Tank. But speaking of kind of the deck, we're also going to go over a couple of ideas I've had for the BT18 meta. So looking at some of the cards that we can use in terms of tech cards. So the first draft I came up with is looking a bit more blue. So an interesting thing that's occurred in BT18 is we actually now have access to jamming in red. And what likes jamming? Small things that do security checks. SkullMeramon. So most of the cards are the same. Obviously, some of the ratios will be slightly different, but I've added in 4 copies of Penguinmon in the rookie line, so kind of gives us some additional rookies. And he's very, very good, because what he's going to do is going to reduce the cost of whenever it digivolves into a 2-color Digimon, or when one of your tamers digivolves into a 2-color Digimon, and then has that inheritable jamming. He does cost 1 to go into, but there is that. Also, you would have seen this list if you saw our Special Booster 2.0 discussion video last week, which, as of recording, came out today. But Penguinmon I think will be very interesting to have that jamming. And along with that Penguinmon, I've changed the level 4 line entirely. First, we've brought in ST1 Greymon, which is a card I played around in the early drafts of SkullMeramon, and I thought, now that jamming is available to us potentially, could come back, because all of a sudden we've got Security Tap +1 underneath SkullMeramon, which gives itself Security Tap +1 with its own effect, which I think would be really cool. Obviously, the Greymon won't be reduced by cost because it's a single color Digimon. The Penguinmon won't reduce its cost by going into it, but Greymon's pretty cheap anyway. It's only 2 costs to go into, so it's not that bad. We've also got the Kumamon and the Korikakumon from BT18. This is to obviously be our new kind of hybrids. The Korikakumon is the really important one because it does have the jamming, and also does have a pretty cool inheritable effect of I believe it is until the end of your opponent's turn, one of their Digimon can't suspend, so that is really good for stunning. The Kumamon is also really good because it can trash Digivolution sources, as well as also I believe, reduce the cost of your next Digivolution of a hybrid by 1, which is really, really good. And also has a way of kind of playing out a tamer from your stack if the stack dies. So you've got a bit of recovery almost with the BT18 stuff. Also in the level 6 line, I changed it slightly because I've added in BT1 Wargreymon. This is a card that I've wanted to have jamming for a really, really long time. And ultimately, if this wasn't trying to be a SkullMeramon deck, I would probably put in something else instead of SkullMeramon. I hate to say it. Something that maybe gives security attack +1 to the Wargreymon. You know, maybe I should work on like a jamming Greymon list. That'd be quite fun. But the Wargreymon's in here because of the fact it gains security attack +1 on when Digivolving. But also, keyly, what it does is it has a delicate plan-like effect as it's your turn effect. So it doesn't actually activate any options in security. So if you've got jamming and you've got that, your opponent doesn't, you know, activate anything in security unless it's a tamer, and there's no tamer that's going to remove the Wargreymon. So yeah, I really like that. I really like that idea, and I do want to play around with it. We've also got the Tommies in as our tamers in this instead of the Takuyas, 4 copies of each one. Obviously the old Tommy is blue, so searching it is going to be a bit of a problem, but we do have some more generic kind of ways of drawing and searching, so I don't think it'll be too bad. He trashes the top 3 Digivolution cards, and he also does a stunning effect with his when attacking. And then the new Tommy, essentially you get to trash a hybrid trait Digimon or a tamer with inheritable effects, I believe, from your hand to gain 1 memory. So it does help you gain a little bit of memory at the start of the turn. And then I believe also has that kind of stunning effect as the inheritable as well. Then obviously feel free to let me know if I'm wrong on that. Then I've also added in 1 Hammer Spark in lieu of the Gravity Crushes. Obviously Hammer Spark is limited now, but I thought that'd be quite interesting because we've got quite a bit of blue in this, so we could probably get away with using it. Only gives you 1 memory, but I think with SkullMeramon being so cheap, that would be enough sometimes. So I think it's a pretty fun list. Definitely something to explore with. We've also got one that's a bit more in line with the previous list, the BT17 one. So the only changes here are literally going to be, we've added in the Wargreymon again, we've added in the Penguinmon again because we want to keep that jamming, and the Penguinmon actually works with any red hybrid, any red 2-color hybrid, which is really, really cool. And then we've also added in the BT18 Aegisdramon into this list. Greymon's in this list as well, the ST1. We've added in BT18 Aegisdramon because essentially when he digivolves, he can return one of your tamers or one of your hybrid trait Digimon from the trash. It actually gives you a little bit of recursion while still having that really generic 2000 DP inheritable. So this one I feel like would be more consistent than the blue one, because obviously the blue one's going to have some issues with searching stuff. And this one's a little bit more line in terms of the ratios when compared to the original list. So this one's probably the one I'm leaning towards more. But I do want to try out both of these. I also, if I came up with a list that was a mix of both of the lists. So we've got the Penguinmon in, we've got the Greymon in, we've got the Aegisdramon and the Korikaku. Obviously, they can't digivolve on top of each other, but you know, it gives us a hybrid option. It gives us a jamming hybrid option as well. What's really good as well is both these can digivolve on top of any tamer. It is for quite a bit of cost, 3 costs for the Aegisdramon and 4 for the Korikakumon. But that's, you know, we have ways of mitigating that with the Penguinmon, for example. And obviously we've got ways of kind of making our other Digivolutions cheaper. Wargreymon's back in as well. We've got Takuyas and Tommies in this one. Less Tommies than Takuyas, because I found that the BT17 Takuya was just too good, and I thought having a memory setter would be important, so that's why we kind of go for those ratios. Could always play around with that. Gravity Crush is back in alongside Hammer Spark. The Hammer Spark will be quite hard to use because we don't have that much blue, but I think it still could come up, and also could be a cheeky thing in security. And then the rest of the stuff is kind of more catered around that original list. But let me know what you guys think about this list. Was, you know, as I said in the match yesterday, was Skull Hybrid too much of a rule break or a rule bend, really, because the rule was not in place, technically speaking? You know, is it something that you guys want to play around with? Is it like, you know, has the meme deck done the job, really? I think it has. I think it's a really fun list, and I'm sure that not many people on the algorithm will be looking for this sort of deck. So I would appreciate if any of you do enjoy this, make sure you like, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and share this around. Show this list off. It's a very unique deck, very unique list. You know, in terms of what it is doing. Yes, it's you know, basically a red hybrid with a skull paint job, but I think it is very, very interesting, and you know, definitely deserves a little bit more exploration, especially with some of the ideas, not necessarily for a SkullMeramon deck, but for, like, you know, utilizing the BT1 War Greymon with jamming and stuff like that. Do I think it would be like the single best thing ever in the world, and suddenly this Jank Tech is like breaking the meta? Absolutely not. We've got too much really good stuff in the meta right now. Do I think this could be really good in, you know, in casual settings and non-meta tournaments, in, you know, in kind of where it belongs? Abso-freaking-lutely, and I think you guys will really enjoy it just as much as I have. But anyways, that's enough from me. I hope you guys have enjoyed Jank Tank 6, and we'll keep you in the loop for when we're doing the next one. I'm hoping we've filmed the next one by this video, and obviously I'll let you guys know if we have. Make sure you vote in that poll as well, and we'll see you again on the next video. But until next time, keep it digital.